welcome. Thank you so much for joining me today. I know you have many choices in how you spend your magical Monday, but you're with me, and I'm going to share with you another journey through my career to inspire you and touch on things that were real challenges and how I overcame some of them, and give you some tools today to really harness some of those skills. So we've got 5 points that we're going to explore today. And as you can see, 5 lessons learned during my career that still test me. Oh, yeah. And we're going to look at the battle of confidence, which I had to really juggle with. I can't be a has-been. That was the other thing that I said. So how many of you think, oh gosh, I've been doing this for years and still I struggle with confidence? I'm just going to look over in our chat here to just see our friends, Misty and Joni. I'm thank you so much for being with us today. And there are more people coming in. So yeah, confidence. Is that not something we can all identify with? Hi, Lisa. Good to have you here. And who wants to be a has-been? Nobody wants to be a has-been. And that was something that I used to say to myself over and over again. I can't be a has-been. I can't be a has-been. How do I stay fresh? And then, of course, living up to everyone's expectations. So it's really interesting how we can strive to have these amazing goals and dreams and so on. But with it, therefore comes a higher expectation. So many times hairdressers say to me, Viv, how do I get to earn more money and do less work? Well, there's not one answer for that. But as you climb up in your skills and you work to your strengths and you learn how to manage your weaknesses, you're going to climb up that ladder. And if you're following 2 things, purpose, which is different from passion, they kind of are often bridged together, but they are very different from each other. And we will be exploring that today. Yes, you can achieve some great things, but with it comes a price, the price of your time, your energy, and so on and so forth, and living up to expectations. So that you get that client, you do a radical transformation on her, and now everyone expects you to perform a miracle, right? Living up to expectations. Managing stress. The stress of staying on time, the stress of living up to expectations, the stress of you've created something. Now, how do you maintain it and sustain it? It's another challenge, right? And of course, we're going to be talking about your passion and your purpose and how that plays out. And I think the best way to tell these stories is to go through my career, because it's been a long career. So for those of you who don't know who the heck I am, my name is Vivienne Mackinder. I've been in the business now for over 40 years. I was very fortunate. I had a pedigree training, which was by choice, by the way. Throughout my entire career, I've worked with the most famous, iconic hairdressers in the world. And I'm taking you on this journey. So I've won many, many awards. I'm not saying that to brag or impress, but just to say I have some skill. And I'm still working on my skill, right? But anyway, enough about that. Let's get into the juicy stuff, right? So I was working for the greatest hairdresser in the world as his creative artistic director, Trevor Sorby, a man I love, adore, who I think is one of the greatest hairdressers ever. And he has continued to produce extraordinary hairdressers. If you just go and check out Trevor Sorby and some of the incredible artists who've worked with him, you will see what I mean. And you can also check that out in a previous episode. So I left Trevor Sorby because I was now looking for the next adventure. And Trevor said to me, Viv, he said, I've taken you as far as I can. It's now time for you to fly. So here I am in the United States, and it was the strangest thing. I had an opportunity to open a salon in London. I had an opportunity to open a salon in New York. I was given the opportunity for a contract with major, major companies. And this all happened within a period of about 2 months. Matrix, Redken, Joico, Weller, Trevor Sorby USA, a London salon, and a New York salon. And it was like, oh my gosh, the world has opened to me. And I remember when I started off in the business and I was going through a wobbly woo moment, people said to me, Viv, just stick it, stick it, stick it, stick it. Because if you can get through this, you can get through anything, right? And they said, if you do this right, the doors of the world will open to you. And there it was. So I interviewed with these different people and I thought, oh my gosh, and these companies, I thought, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And so I went with Matrix. I fell in love with Sadell Miller, who was the co-founder of Matrix. And Matrix had just been bought by Bristol Myers Squibb. So they had become a real big corporate entity. Never worked in a corporation before, especially in the United States. And I'm sure many of you watching have thought, oh gosh, yeah, I've worked for a corporation. And it's not for everybody, right? Because you are one of thousands in a system with a tremendous amount of structure. So here I am, I'm now on my path with Matrix, and I have all this innovation and I have all this creativity, and I want to conquer the world because now I'm working with a company that's got huge budgets. I want a piece of that budget, right? So here I am, I'm going from my Peter Pan look to looking like a really poor version of Madonna. But I am stepping on stages, and I'm stepping on stages all over the world. So I had started to do shows that were huge production, and we had these huge trucks that would cross the United States with all of my staging and everything. It would take sometimes 2 days to set up the stage. And some of these shows back then, this is a long time ago, like $700,000 of production cost. And I would step onto these incredible stages and do my thing. I went on tour. And I used to say to myself, which country am I in today? Because I was living on an airplane. And it was exciting and thrilling. But at some point, it was like, oh my gosh, another stage, another performance. And so I had to battle through a lot of different things. And I remember doing this show in Italy with these gorgeous guys that are here. Let's take a closer look at these guys because they were truly adorable. This was my team. Look at these gorgeous men. So anyway, I'm working at this show, and I remember driving up. It was in Italy. I remember driving up, and it was a huge stadium. And the week before, there had been this huge concert there, and, you know, big production going on. And now it's me arriving. Bruce Springsteen was playing there before. So there I arrive, and my name is up there on this huge, huge thing. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, no. Oh no. This can't be right. I can't do a show that's this big. And it was a big show. So go into the place and it's like, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? The hair has got to be larger than life. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, how's this going to work? Just the size of the venue freaked me out. And I went outside to get a breath of fresh air, and I didn't have my credentials with me because obviously in some of these venues, you need a lot of credentials to prove who you are. And I got outside and I didn't have any credentials. And so I went back to go inside, and they said, no, you can't go inside. And I said, I have to. I'm trying to explain. I don't speak Italian. And I'm trying to explain to them, I need to go inside because this is me. Like, you see that sign up there? This is me. So I'm haggling backwards and forwards with this poor woman who's security. And she says, no, you can't go in. And then eventually someone's looking for me thinking, where the heck is this woman? And I'm stuck outside. I can't even get into my own show. And it just became real entertaining. But I have to tell you, for the standing ovations that I had and the success that I had, I did every single one afraid. And the afraid part had so many layers to it. So let's just sort of like unpack this whole thing. I've got a lot of skill. I've had training for the stage. I've worked for the most famous hairdressers in the world, but now I'm flying solo for a big corporation and I'm their it girl. And I'm supposed to now just inspire all of these people. And I'm thinking, yeah, but what if the hair doesn't work? What if it goes horribly wrong? What if? So I'm going over all of these what ifs, freaking out, right? So I'm thinking, well, I'm really scared. And I thought, well, just put on your show face, go out there and do what you know. And the moment I touched the hair, some of the fear would go, but not all of the fear. Because the biggest thing next was living up to people's expectation and then beyond their expectation. How can I surprise people? How can I give them that wow factor? So I'm talking about stage world because that was the arena I was playing in. But that can apply to anything you do with any client that sits in your chair. Living up to an expectation, trying something new always has a friend that comes with it, fear. And if you do it in the face of fear, it's called courage. And there are times when you need courage to get through certain people, circumstances, and situations. And there are other times when you say, I don't think this is right now. I'm going to back away a little bit because it just does not feel right. So I have a process that I do, and it's a 3-step process. And we can do this right now together. I want you to think about something that has been scary. Think about a scary client, a client that was really, really difficult to deal with. And I just want you to put your hands on your head and ask your head what you thought about that. So just think with your head about that difficult client. Now, exactly the same thing. Put your hand on your heart and think about that difficult client with your hand on your heart. Now ask yourself the same question again. Again, think about that difficult client and put your hand on your gut. Which one, please in the chat, tell me, which one for you was the strongest feeling? Was it your head, your heart, or your gut? When you have someone who's difficult, that's putting fear, triggering your fear buttons. Let's see what that is for you. Because for myself, it would be my gut. My gut feeling would be saying, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can do this. My gut feeling. And in the gut is where we have kind of our survival intuitive mechanisms, right? But in my heart, I love to create. And in my head, I like to think things through logically and have a plan. So Kim's saying my gut, yes. But if we flip this around, and I want you now to think about an amazing client that you have in your life. And I want you to think about that client, think about the joy she brings you, and just think about her for a moment in your head. Now, feel the client. How does it feel when you're in the presence of that client? So ask your heart. Now ask your gut. When you're in the presence of that client, how do you feel? Are you in survival? Are you in stress? Are you in anxiety? Probably not. So for me, when I'm thinking about some of the good things that can happen, it's in my heart. How is that for you? So when you have these 3 ways of asking a question, the rational mind, right? The emotion, the heart, how you feel, the creative process of how you feel, and then your survival mechanism, your gut, which very rarely, I've never found my gut, my intuitive side to ever be wrong. So there are 3 levels there. So Lindsay's saying light and happy in my heart. Yeah. So you see how powerful that tool is. So when you're at a crossroads of challenge, when you're at a crossroads of fear, when you're at any of those places, you can just quietly go to that place and you can just ask those 3 important things. And that would be beautiful. Hi, Michael. Welcome. So the next thing we're going to look at is the imposter syndrome. Am I really worthy to stand on this stage? Am I really worthy to have my own salon? Am I really worthy to have all of these things? Blah, 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 blah. And at the end of the day, for myself, having worked as hard as I did in my career to bring me to the place where, as I mentioned in the beginning of this presentation, I had so many people wanting to work with me that I had a choice. And I had an incredible choice, and I became that it girl. It didn't happen overnight. I had years and years of training and coaching. But what was I going to do with that? And was I going to believe in that? And sometimes I would say to myself, if Trevor Sorbie was in the front row right now, what would he say? And that would freak me out even more. Oh my gosh, oh my gosh. But then I'd have to say to myself, you know what? I was the artistic director for Trevor Sorbie. He would never have given me that position if he didn't think I was worthy. So right now, I don't believe in me, but why don't I believe in my mentor who did believe in me, right? Let's put on his belief for a moment. So when you're stuck, and we've got lots of members of my site with us right now. So whenever you're having a wobbly woo, you could quite easily say, well, what would Viv do right now? Would she back away? Would she go, hey, we're going to go for it, right? Whoever your hero or mentor is, that's the kind of the approach that you want when you're having that imposter syndrome. And for me, it was definitely a bit of stage fright. Stress. There was a lot of stress because the stress of producing a show, all the things that go on behind the scenes before you see what steps onto the stage, the rehearsals, the things that go wrong, the models that don't work out, the choreography that's going wrong, the cues and all the tech things that happen at a big production show. There's a lot of moving parts. And all of a sudden you're all meeting, you work together maybe for 2 days, and then you're producing this big event. And the pressure is on. So the stress level is huge. And, you know, getting up at 2 a.m. to prep models, or getting up at or not even going to bed and prepping models and thinking, can I get this done in time? And being able to sometimes do 12 completely unique looks to hit like a 10 o'clock show. You're not going to bed, right? So that stress of time, always watching the time, how much more time do I have? How much more time? And then just going, okay, just chill out for a moment, because surely this should be an enjoyable experience. And the stress and the worry is putting me in a place of anxiety. This is not a healthy place to be. So I used to just practice breathing, and we're going to do a breathing technique in a moment. And it would just like bring me back and bring me centered. And then I would go on. And sometimes I just have to walk away for a moment and then come back. So we all need a grounding when things are getting crazy. And also for myself, I'd be saying to myself, why did I do so many models? I should have done half the amount. Or I'm having an assistant who's supposed to assist me, and they haven't a clue. And I'm now having to fix all the mistakes that they made, which in the long term made me realize, wow, these hairdressers don't know how to blow dry. They don't know how to set. They don't know how to do this. They don't know how to do that. We're like, oh my gosh. So I had to build a team and train them. That did not happen overnight. That took years to try and get a team up to the standard that I wanted. It was quite challenging, but all of those lessons take you to where you are now. So I did battle with never enough time. It's like, there's not enough time to do this. And then calm down, right? But what I know about anxiety is it's nothing more than worry spiraling out of control. Where does anxiety live? In your gut. Nervous tummies, all the things that people have today. It's stress that's spiraling out of control. And everything has a solution. No problem is permanent. And so when I would either have a difficult model, so think about this in salon reality, difficult client, how are you going to navigate through those situations? Instead of pulling back, you go forwards, right? You go forwards and say, right, what do I need to do right now to make you happy? What is it specifically that's not working for you right now, so I can fix that? Now, when you lose control, when I lost control, the hair ended up shorter than I anticipated, or the hair did something different than we ever expected. That's my problem. And that's where I have to own up and say, listen, this has gone a little shorter than I anticipated, and so on and so forth. And you have to try and work your way through those challenges, right? But recognizing when you're getting your knickers in a twist and saying, right, solution. What is the solution here? The quicker I could jump into solution, everything would calm down. Because when you're in solution, you're not reactive, you're active. You're on a mission, and it's a completely different energy. So one of the things that would carry me forward was my passion and my purpose. So when I think of passion, and I want you to think about this right now, passion is what you feel. It's personal. You love what you're doing, and it gives you energy. So that's the clue as well. When you do certain things, does it give you energy? Are you excited? So that's your passion. So for myself, I was passionate about creating beautiful collections. I was passionate about producing these incredible shows, working with choreographers, creating storylines, creating all the visuals, the videos, all of the things that would go with it. I was passionate about that. So the getting up at 2 a.m, the challenges that you face on every single production, weren't really, it was something I could deal with because my passion was greater than the problem. And I knew that the only way to do what I was going to do was to stick tight to the passion. And that was a big game changer. Now, purpose is quite different because those are your actions that impact others. So if my purpose is to empower hairdressers, to inspire hairdressers, to elevate the craft, to be a role model, which is a huge responsibility, that is to help others. One day I stepped on a stage and I remember how nervous I was again. And something inside me said, it's not about me. It's about you. It's about you, every single one of you that's watching me right now. It's not about me. I know what I can do and I can't do, but how about if I can help you? And it shifted the whole dynamic. So I want to challenge you when you have a client who is possibly intimidating, a client who may be a know-it-all, a client who is a resistor. When you get into that place, it's about you. It's not about me. It shifts the dynamic. So try it. Put it on, try it, see if it works for you. It certainly worked for me many, many ways. So when I look at this here, the confidence, it all comes down to confidence. And this is what's interesting. When you are working on a new goal, you can't wait for it to feel right. Many times when people are working on confidence, they don't realize it's a skill. They don't realize it's a mindset, and it has nothing to do with your personality. And many people will say, well, I can't do that because I've never done it before, therefore I'm not confident. Well, the reality is that it's not when it's convenient or where it feels good, because to develop the confidence, you've got to get out there. And the big thing there is you're not meant to be good in the beginning. Let's take a yoga class. This is my favorite example. So many times when I say to people, I do yoga, they'll say to me, oh, I couldn't do yoga. I'm not supple. And it's like, you should see me get out of bed in the morning. Neither am I. That's why I do yoga. And you know what? When I started doing yoga, I was really bad. No, I'm slightly okay, but it was called practice, right? So let's get this really clear about if you are thinking like, I'm not confident to do this, this, and this, Viv. Number one, there's never going to be the perfect time. It's always going to feel like, oh my gosh, I don't know how to do it. Okay, welcome to the party. The next thing is that you may be starting from zero. Why would you feel confident? You're starting from zero, you're trying something new, and you're questioning your confidence. So when we want to do new things in our life, we know that we're going to start at zero. It's going to feel uncomfortable. But if we have great teachers and mentors and we are patient with ourselves, we'll get more and more confident, because skill and confidence are partners to each other. I hope that makes sense. Does that make sense, right? So the next thing we want to look at is new skills require study and practice. It's not a Instagram, TikTok moment. As lovely as all of that is, that's not where mastery and confidence is built. It's built by the doing and the physically getting out there and practicing. And there's no shortcut to it. We're right now in Olympic year. And I love any time the Olympics are on to listen to the backstory of the challenges, the frustrations, the struggles, the courage that took place for that person to be an Olympian. And then the difference between the first, second, and third place is such a small fraction of a moment. And it's incredible what those athletes go through to be a gold medalist. So we can feel inspired by watching them on the podium. But are we envious of the struggles and the dedication and the discipline? Probably not. So when we want something and we want to build our confidence, like I wanted to build my confidence to be on a stage, there was never the perfect time. You just go out there and go, oh my gosh, it's an audience. Now what do I do? And it's like, I'm really not very good at this. Well, the only way to get good at it is just to do it, right? Just to try. And I had incredible mentors around me. I mean, I leaned into their brilliance and I would listen because there are mirror neurons in the brain where we will mirror what we see. So be real careful what you watch, who influences you, where you spend your time, because even unconsciously, it's a mirroring process. So you've got to mirror brilliance around you if you want what they've got. You've got to be looking to those icons. That's why mentoring is so very important. The other thing that people don't talk about in coupling with confidence is discipline. Oh, yeah. The discipline to do it, the discipline to show up, the discipline to work at it when it failed again and again and again and again and again. I always say when I fail, which I do, fail forward so you can get up. Determination and grit. When I think about the amazing people I've worked with in my career, they've had all of these qualities I'm speaking to right now, but determination and grit has been a really big part of that. The other thing that we tend to forget about is time, and the time that it does take to reach those goals, to feel confident. And that, again, is such an important thing. And then, of course, who's coaching you? It should be the best of the best of the best in the world. Don't be coached by mediocre. You'll end up mirroring that behavior. Go to the best. Be pushed, because in being pushed, that's where you find your greatness. And that was what helped me in my career. So when I was kind of doing my thing backstage, very focused, very disciplined, trying to do my best, that was my journey. But I had to build my brand in the United States. So I thought, well, maybe part of building my brand, I'm traveling the world now. I'm doing all these incredible big shows. I'm doing massive photo shoots. I'm doing everything at a really high profile. I work for a huge corporation that has a lot of money. I don't necessarily have the freedom. I have to juggle with the education department, the marketing department, the sales department, the PR department, the department of the departments of the departments, and please all of these people and convince them and sell them on an idea. Ooh, not so easy to do. So I thought, well, I'll just enter the North American Hairdressing Awards. I'm here in America. I might as well enter them. So in 1 year, I won the avant-garde and I won the classic. And I remember afterwards, somebody, a journalist, said to me, wow, that's so strange that you would have won two opposites. And I said, why? Why would it be so strange? She said, well, avant-garde is out there and classic is classic. I said, yeah, but to me, they both are vital and both are support each other, because most creations are built on a classic principle. So anyway, I started, as I was going off on my travels, I started to do all my little hair demonstrations, and I did this one on stage. And then we did something fun with the photography. And then we did this look. And this was the one that won the Naha. And I was into doing like very architectural shapes back then. I could finger wave and integrate the rest of the hair. So it was something that was a whole lot of fun. But in the Matrix world, I then had to step into the commercial reality of, okay, so how do we make hair look the way it is? And now bear in mind, guys, this is 30 years ago. 30 years ago. So where I'm doing these kind of cool shoots, and I'm working with incredible photographers. The photographer here was Aldo Belcroix, incredible gentleman and photographer. And we started to create all these amazing concepts and these collections. But the lessons learned on a photo shoot, understanding how the camera sees hair, took a long time to master, to understand the balance, the proportion, and then also deal with the challenges on a shoot, dealing with all of the personalities on the set. So my favorite visual is that when you're working on high production photo shoots for these big clients, and you're doing big advertising campaigns, TV commercials, which I did, the catering is always 5-star. And so you've got this incredible spread, huge buffets. So you've got the art director and this assistant art director and the head of marketing and the head of sales. And you've got all the corporate people that have landed on a day out in the studio to watch Vivienne work. So between grazing at the buffet and buffeting their bodies, they that also have an opinion. Oh, I think that's too big. Take that down. Oh, I think that's too small. Needs more product in it. None of these hairdressers, by the way. Now you've got the photographer. You're taking too long. I'm sorry. They want it big. They want it small. She's eating another cream puff cake. And this one is on her third bagel. And it's just getting crazier and crazier. So you're thinking, okay, I'd like to punch somebody right now. I'd like to put your face in that cream cake right now. And I'm thinking, okay, smile and breathe and stay focused on what we need to do, because we've got a lot of personalities here and a lot of opinions. Now the fashion stylist does not like the look. Now the makeup artist is saying, well, he doesn't like that makeup. And everyone is going on. And I'm thinking, get me out of here. This is a nightmare. I never want to do another photo shoot in my life. I'm ready to scream. I'm ready to say to everybody, right, but that's not going to happen. So we get through the dramas, and my approach was go through the breathing technique that I'm going to show you in a moment, so don't go away, and stay focused on the prize. Now I know how to debrief and understand more about the picture and the story than I did back then. So here we are, we're in Italy, and we're doing this beautiful shoot, and we're in Venice, and I'm doing this hair, and we're running out of time because we're on location. And so what's happening is that the fog is rolling in. You can see it's starting to get a little bit hazy. And I don't know whether you've ever tried to do hair in fog, but fog is very wet and very humid and very sticky. So the photographer's saying, you've got 5 minutes to do this hairstyle. And I'm going, 5 minutes. And then part of me says, you can't do that. This is ridiculous. I'm standing up in the street in Venice, fog's coming in, lights going, photographer's like, you've got 5 minutes, you've got 5 minutes, sun's going, the fog's coming in and it's rolling in. And I think, oh my gosh, just do it. So I did it. And I did this hairstyle, I think in 5 minutes. It was the craziest thing. And when you look to this and you see, you know, the whole composition and so on, somehow miraculously it worked. And then the funny thing was, I love this quote. We may not be able to control how we feel, but we can control how we act. And I love that statement, because I couldn't control how I was feeling right then, which was a sense of anxiety and stress because the weather is no longer in my favor. But I can control how I feel. So I took one of my breaths again. I said, stay focused on the prize. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. And if you think about this, if you try to lift something up and say, I can't do it, that's heavy, you probably can't. But if you try and lift something up saying, I can do it, I can do it. I was doing that with push-ups the other day. It was like I was on my 10th one and saying, I can't do it. And then I said, nope, you can do it. I went, I can, I can, I can. I put power behind it. I ended up doing it, right? Mind over matter. So I love this because it's so profound. But this is a funny story here. This one's really funny because stepping back and looking at the big picture, I did the hair and it's a little bit of an Asian vibe going on. You can see the texture and so on. It was a little bit over the top. But the photographer said to me, right, that's it, she's done. And then she gets onto the gondola and then the gondolier is rowing away. And I'm going, oh my gosh, I can't fiddle and fuss anymore with the hair. She's now in the middle of the water. And the photographer is shooting away, doing these pictures. And he turns around and he says, see, I stopped you from fiddling. And I said, yeah. And I'm getting a lesson on stepping back from my work. Because I always say, like, for those of you who are new to my world, I always say to the hairdressers that I'm working with, stop, step back, look at the big picture, because we get so caught up in the detail of the creation, the little tiny pieces, that we stop seeing the big picture. To me, that's where the magic is in looking at the big picture. So again, when I'm looking at a shot, I'm always saying to myself, right, you know, how does the camera see it, and how does my naked eye see it, and how will video see it? How will it look on film? And we were in a piazza here, again, very, very beautiful. And just created this look. So it's taken a long time to train my eye to understand how the camera sees a shot. So now I do a lot of training around using your phone. How do you compose a shot? How do you create more depth within the image of the hair? How do you create more valleys and peaks? Because the camera will flatten an image. So I'm very sensitive to that. So I do a lot of training around those important things. We've got people here right now. Lindsay, Misty, Michael have been to my photographic workshops where they got to see firsthand how the camera sees a shape, and it's so completely different. But it's important today. You see, back then it was, you do a beautiful picture, you hope you get published in a magazine, and that's how you get your name out there. And I always knew that a photograph should work for me while I'm asleep. A photograph should be able to go anywhere in the world and people know and recognize what I'm doing because the photograph is doing the talking for me. Today, obviously, you've got social media. So today, anyone can publish, which makes it a problem. Anyone can publish, which makes it a problem. When it was only print, only the creme de la creme were published. And if you got a front cover, that was a major, major, major big deal. So I used to go with Matrix and do desk visits to editors of all the big Condé Nast magazines, Vogue, Harper's. I used to do the desk visit, talk about trends, talk about fashion that's going to happen. That doesn't even exist anymore. But back then we did, because the relationship to a magazine was everything. It was gold. So today we can be self-publishing in a very, very crowded space, which makes it a different set of difficulties, because how do you stand out? How do you find your brand? And how do you build your voice to get the clients coming into you who you like and want? So as I was going on my journey of learning to work with photographers, art directors, and all the creatives, the hardest thing, and still today, don't take it personally when they say, I don't like that. You don't? Why? What's wrong with it? Oh, it's too big. It's too small. It's too tight. It's too wide. It's too something. Right? It doesn't suit her face shape. Oh, what's that? I never got formal training on a face shape. I worked with the most famous hairdressers in the world, as I've mentioned before, and they were famous because they had an incredible eye, a credible sense of style. They made everything look expensive and desirable. You just wanted to be with them and hang out with them. And I used to watch them work and try and figure out, how did you come up with that decision? I found it so fascinating. How did you come up with that idea? So fascinating. That the creative process was intriguing. And so I started to break it down into baby steps and think, right, they just did this. I'm going to go and do that too. Then they did that. I'm going to do that too. And when I used to ask them, how did you come up with that idea? I don't know, just did. Really? So it was an incredible journey of watching brilliant people, but don't take it personally. That was a big deal. So these images were created in Morocco. We went back to Morocco and we did this collection and designing to face shape. That's where I started to be very, very critical of, okay, it must balance. But the other thing too, it was know when to stop. Ooh, is that a painful lesson? The fiddling and I'll do a bit more and I'll do a bit more. No. Sometimes when someone says to you, you've got 5 minutes to do that, it's amazing what you can do in 5 minutes. And sometimes we spend too long on something and we killed it. One of the things I love to do when I'm training is say to, especially when we do our editorial styles, I'll say, we're going on this journey, take a photograph, carry on, take a photograph, carry on, so that you can go back and you can look at the construction process and how you built it. And it's like, wow, it was going dodgy, genius, didn't notice it was genius, took it off in another direction. It was okay. Then it went like rubbishy, tried too hard. Then it went climb back up again and it was kind of okay. And then you stop. Do you stop because someone said time is out, or you stop because your brain is like dead, right? So those things help you by photojournaling to know when to stop, because so many times one should have stopped a long time ago. And I just realized with myself that when I didn't know when to stop, it was lack of confidence. I wasn't stepping back and looking at the big picture. And sometimes I would be so harsh on myself, as it wasn't good enough, because I was always comparing with people so much better than me. And I would think to myself, gosh, the way I'm treating myself right now isn't very respectful. I've done a lot of things here, but I'm not even showing self-respect or love. And then I thought, if I treated other people like I'm treating myself right now, I'd have no friends. And then it was like, wow, I better be a bit kinder to myself, a little less harsh. So, one has to be very careful in that area, right? I love this photograph. Knowing when to play it safe and when to push innovation. And this to me was such a strong shot. And we actually printed it on glass, and it looks spectacular on glass. And worked with an incredible designer, Zhang, who I wanted the hair to kind of fit the outfit. I wanted it to I didn't want there to be a gap between the hair and the outfit. And what I love about this is that the color of the face is the exact same color of the body. The makeup is strong. It couldn't be soft, otherwise she'd have been lost in there. But everything works. The hardest thing with this was the red border. And then cutting this strong line in here was certainly not easy, but every single element really worked. The body position, the whole thing is really pretty amazing, especially when you consider it's a long, long time ago that I did this look. So then we went off to Australia, and I love Australia. I love the Australian hairdressing scene. There's some brilliant hairdressers in Australia, but we went to the outback, and then we went on location, and it was really cool because there we were in the Blue Ridge Mountains, and it was just so spectacular. And then we went to this little place that was like a little, I don't know, a train station that was sort of like derelict, and we did the shoot there using Vivienne Westwood clothes. And the photograph that you're seeing on the side, everything was blue because of the eucalyptus, and it was just the coolest thing. And I can't remember the actual name, but it was pretty amazing. So then I started to think, right, I've got to keep building my brand. So I started to do more and more collections for the North American Hairdressing Awards. And I then, this is now 25 years ago, I started to put patterns into hair. We have enjoyed in the more recent years hair patterns, but this was kind of like the beginning of hair pattern concept. And we were just doing all sorts of different shapes. And it was like, how can I be creative? But innovation and the creative process, searching for ideas, how can I make it new? It's always that questioning process. So here we built a stage set for this. And I just loved, again, kind of like the coolness of the hairstyle with this amazing architecture. And to me, sometimes the most important thing in a beautiful photograph is the beautiful photograph. It's not the intricacy of the hair, it's the totality of the look. So you can see here, we've scaled full fashion, and it makes more sense. And if this was a tight beauty shot, it would probably get lost. But because there's something quite unique about it, this girl kind of floating in the air, it kind of arrests your attention. And today you've got to think, how do I stop the scroll? How do I arrest somebody's attention? How do I stand out in that sea of sameness that's out there? You've got to think differently in order to have innovation. So the creative process is a process, and it's an always searching for ideas. So it's harvesting ideas and creating mood boards and creating things where you can capture ideas and just marinate with them, just enjoy them, let your eyes look over them, let them influence you, and it will actually shift your perception and your awareness and start to open the doors to creativity. And it's always asking, well, okay, if we've done it this way, what could I do? What would be a 5% shift to make that look different and better? And that makes it exciting too. So innovation. How does one have innovation and thrive as an artist in a commercial world, especially in a big corporation? So I came up with a great idea, or I thought it was a great idea. So now we're talking, yeah, it must be 30 years ago. Matrix wanted to expand their brand. They wanted to be everywhere, right? So I said, how about I do a presentation to the board because I have an idea. So the idea at the time was, how could we get Matrix products into cosmetology schools? Because kids in cosmetology schools come out very, very loyal to the brand that they grew up with. Now, this is before Aveda schools existed. This is before the 100 Paul Mitchell schools existed. This is before Redkin schools existed. Schools were just little independent schools. I said, well, if you could harvest those together. So I did my mood boards. I did this whole presentation. And I was so excited because I thought that is the way to get in at grassroots and start expanding the brand, right? They didn't think that was a very good idea. Remember what I said about don't take it personal? So they didn't like the idea. In fact, they were quite rude about my idea. And they said, no, you can leave now. So I remember gathering all my boards quietly. And I got all my boards and I'm like stumbling out of the boardroom. And I think, what the hell do I do with boards? I'm dropping my boards. No one's helping me because they really don't like my idea. They really think I should just go. So I'm going. So I think, well, I'm going to take all my boards into the bathroom. Got all these boards, I'm dropping them and dragging them and so on. And I get the boards and I go and throw them there. And I go into the cubicle and I sob and sob and sob. I know it's a good idea. I know it's a good idea. Why don't they listen to me? 5 years later, Paul Mitchell opened their first school. And within 5 years, they became, I think it was the #1 franchise in growth within that period of time, because they went from 1 to 100. I was right. But lesson learned, right? Timing in life is everything. So let's do this together because I think this has been very, very helpful. This is a breathing technique. It's not mine. It's a classic breathing technique. And it's really very helpful when difficult client, difficult hair, difficult situations, stress, and just to reground yourself. So let's do this together. We're going to breathe in for 4 seconds, a slow inhalation. Then we're going to hold the breath for 7 seconds. And then we are going to, for 8 seconds, slowly have our exhalation. So let's do it together. In for a count of 4. Hold for 7. Out for 8. Do you feel a sense of calm? Do you feel more peace? Doesn't take much to do it. So it's a wonderful technique. So when I was stepping onto a stage, dealing with difficult situations, intimidated by celebrity or whatever the circumstance was, this would be my technique. Very, very powerful. Do you like it? It's a great technique, isn't it? So then I was mentioning I traveled around the world, and then we went off on some pretty amazing adventures. So one bright idea was to go to Aspen and shoot a collection up on the top of the mountain and do hair on top of a mountain. And somehow we did. And it was actually a whole lot of fun, especially with all these dogs. So, you know, after the experience, I thought to myself, how do I take this crazy day that we just had doing hair up in the mountains and turn it into something amazing? So I looked around and I thought, these dogs have to go back down the mountain, right? They went, yeah. I went, I've never been on a sleigh with huskies pulling. I have to do this because I could ski and I could have skied down the mountain with everybody else, or just simply gone back on the chairlift. I thought, well, I ain't doing that. The other one I've done, this is an opportunity of a lifetime. So they wrapped me up like in this Navajo blanket thing. And I'm there, and the huskies are all like jumping up and down, super excited. And I'm thinking, oh, maybe this wasn't such a good idea. I don't know. So there I am, wrapped up like a little doll, and off we go. And I'm thinking, God, this is really bouncy, right? And then I'm thinking, okay, now this is a panoramic view. I'm just hearing this amazing epic music. I am just like living it. And then all of a sudden I go, oh. And so I'm bouncing along, and I'm thinking, thank goodness I don't have large tits. I'd have black eyes by now. I mean, the bouncing was like unbelievable. Then do you know that expression when they say never be the back dog? Well, it felt like all 20 dogs had gas, and I'm behind them all. I'm thinking, oh no, oh no. So I'm bouncing. My panoramic view is spectacular. The music has gone out of my head. I'm bouncing along, and now we're going fast. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to die. I'm going to die. Scooting down, and it was one of the most scary things ever. And I'm thinking, why didn't I go in the chairlift? Why did I do the chairlift? I was like, no, Vivienne, you've got to do things different. You've got to be brave. You've got to have courage. She's like, yeah, but should I have done this? It was a great experience, but my goodness me, what an adventure. So moving on from all these amazing adventures, I was traveling the world a lot, doing some crazy stuff. I mean, I have so many stories, not enough time to tell you, but what's more important are the lessons learned from these stories. So this is a good one. This lady, I cut her hair with a razor, 100% razor. 2 weeks later, she needed a trim because we were going to rephotograph her for something else. So it was too short to do with the razor, so I did it with scissors. 3 weeks later, we were then doing a video, same model again, and I get out my scissors because, again, it's too short to change with the razor. And she says, oh, no, please don't. And I said, why can't I use the razor? She said, no. First time you did it with a razor, she said it was so soft on the edges and easy to work with. She said the second time you did the scissors wasn't as good. She said, I want the razor. And I'm thinking, she's 100% right. I was like, wow, what a profound lesson about cutting hair with the scissors versus the razor. And for many of you, you know how much I love the razor, and there's the example. So then we started to do more and more shoots. We were traveling at this point a lot, and these were very big productions. And this was about, again, innovation and how do I solve problems that come my way. And, you know, there can be creative problems. We wanted to put patterns in the hair. I had the honor of working with Danilo, an incredible editorial hairdresser. And we started to do these cool things with the hair and had so much fun. So for those of you who don't know me, this is kind of a sudden shift that I'm just going to right here. But for those of you who don't know me, we're on YouTube right now streaming. So don't forget to like and subscribe. And anyone who needs a little extra motivation today, let them grow and change, and let's do it together, right? So don't forget to do that for me, my friends who are watching, right? My little commercial's over. Okay. And for those of you who would like to learn more about my world and how I train and how I coach, this is my website. It's viviennemackinder.com. And when you go there, you can actually book a call to talk to one of my team members to find out how we can serve you, how we can help you, whatever your need may be. For those of you who are already in programs, I'm just so grateful because you're my teachers too. And so this is the world that I live in. So just to conclude, I had started this story with, I left one of the most famous hairdressers in the world to go on my own, and I was offered these incredible opportunities. I joined a huge corporation and had such amazing experiences because I was living on their huge bank account. I got paid a tremendous amount of money at that time. I was probably the highest paid hairdresser for this type of thing. And I kept saying to myself, this is not going to last. And I don't even know whether I want another contract, because I felt like as much creativity as I was experiencing, the fight to do what I believed in was so tough. And I didn't have the training for the corporate world either. And there was a cultural difference. I'm British, I'm living in an American world, and it's very, very, very different, even more different back then. So I came up with this bright idea. I'm going to create a hair collection. And the irony of this story is we created this hair collection, and I thought it would be an interesting thing for Matrix to have hair pieces and so on, to have another layer to their arsenal. So we came out with this collection, and it was called Hair You Wear. And they were just like top little pieces. And so you could add them to hairstyles. And at the time, it was very new and very innovative. And all of these cute little things by adding hair here, there, and everywhere. So that became my collection. So as we were going on this journey, I remember one day we had a booth, and one person purchased one of my pieces, and I'm on the elevator and she's screaming at me going, "Oh, Viv, look, I got one of your things." And I'm going, "Oh my gosh, that just looks like roadkill on her head. That's not meant to be like that. It needs to be integrated, right?" And it was like, oh my gosh, what a disaster. So we came up with a scrunchie, like you could scrunch the hair and pull the hair through and so on and so forth. And it was 3 months later that we were completely ripped off, and it went into Walmart's, and yeah, it was crazy. And so it was an interesting journey of going into a totally different world and getting burnt. Definitely got burnt on that one, but it was a great experience. So I want to just conclude today. I'm only touching the surface of the things I've done in my career. So many things I've forgotten, right? But touching the surface, what I want to say to you in wrapping this up is that how hard we work to get to where we are, we must always bring with us compassion. Compassion for others, but more importantly, compassion for ourselves, because you can't give what you don't have. So the first thing I realized was give myself compassion when I do not hit the mark. Like, just recognize you did these things really well. Take where you missed and take that to the next thing. The other part is to have some grace, some forgiveness. What I did realize is that if I beat myself up, I may quit the goal. And if you think about that, if you beat yourself up so much, it would dissuade you from wanting to go further in what you do. And I think the other aspect is to write down the small victories that come your way, to journal. We all know that journaling is very powerful, but even if it's just a couple of points that you could write down saying, I did that today, or photograph it, photograph your victory. So I think whatever compassion is for you, for me, it was about trying to be a little more gentle, but more important, what is the learn there, and move forward. So that became really huge. As I mentioned in the beginning, it all comes down to confidence. At the end of the day, the confidence that you have is something that is a skill. It's never going to feel comfortable in the beginning. You will feel awkward in the beginning when you're trying anything new. That's part of the parcel to confidence. So I want you to be kind and gentle as you work through the layers of confidence, because let me tell you guys, to stand on a stage with thousands of people looking at you is not for the faint-hearted. I've stood on a stage and in an auditorium that was supposed to house 2,000 people, and there were 20 people in the row. And we were the first ones that opened the show, and I'm thinking, oh, this is great. There's no audience. So I said to the people, could you just all come in a little closer so we'll pretend that you're a big audience? And apparently there was a problem in people getting into the arena, where when our show was done and finished, then everyone started to come in. Well, can you imagine what that feels like, to stand on the stage thinking, I didn't sell this show out, and I was booked to be here, to be the headliner, and no one showed up. My career is over. You can go down that rabbit hole of blaming and criticizing yourself, and it just goes all crazy. But at the end of the day, it's staying true to your purpose, like your mission, your why. It's staying true to what you're passionate about, because when things go wrong, you'll have the tenacity and strength and the desire to keep pushing through it, right? To surround yourself in the mirroring concept of mirroring people that inspire you. And when you're having that wobbly moment, you say to yourself, what would my mentor do right now? They wouldn't quit. They would just try again, right? And what it does is it takes you closer to the level that they're at, and that's very, very helpful. And the other thing too is, do it afraid, right? I know that's a kind of overused statement, but you've got to get out there and do it. And there's going to be a little bit of tension and like, oh, can I do it? But when you succeed, wow, the high is euphoric. And those victories are so, so precious. And I think whatever growth plan you have in your life, it must be one that serves you and that you enjoy who you become on the journey. And if you do that, then the magic occurs. So I hope today has been helpful in going over some of these things that have been so important. And remember that if you want to get some coaching from me, this is where you go, to viviennemackinder.com. And don't forget, my friends, to subscribe here on YouTube and give me some comments, because it's always very helpful, and that way I can bring you some more. So our next mentoring session, we're going to go into a whole nother time in my career and share with you some fun stories. And I hope that this has been inspirational for you and some important tools that you can take into your own life and use. Thank you so much. Lots of love to you all. And until next time, bye for now.